My name is Eleanor, and I'm 68 years old. What I'm about to tell you has changed my life forever. The quietest day of my life was my husband Robert's funeral. It was a cold November morning, the sky lead gray, and a thin fog hung over the cemetery. As I stood beside Robert's coffin, my phone vibrated. It was an unknown number. My knees began to shake as I read the message. I'm alive! It's not me in the coffin. My fingers were shaking so hard I nearly dropped the phone. I looked around. Everyone there was grieving, but I felt like someone waking from a nightmare. I quickly typed back, "Who are you? What does this mean?" The answer came immediately. "I can't tell you. They're watching me. Don't trust our children. Don't trust them, Eleanor. Everything is a lie. I'll reach you, but not now. Throw away the phone." Deleting it isn't enough. When I looked up, I saw them. Daniel and Lucas, my sons. They stood beside the coffin, both wearing black suits, both in tears. But something was wrong. There were tears, but not in their eyes. Their movements were robotic, mechanical. When they embraced me, their arms were icy cold, and there was no warmth in their embrace. Lucas approached me. "Mom, you have to be tough," he said flatly. "It was best for Dad." "Best?" I repeated. "Best for him to have a heart attack and die." Daniel interjected quickly. "Mom, the doctor explained everything. Your dad's heart had been bad for years. You knew that." Yes, I knew, but I also knew that Robert had been feeling much better in the last 6 months. He was taking his medication regularly, paying attention to his diet, taking walks every morning. Even last week, he had said to me, "Smiling, Eleanor, I feel 20 years younger." Throughout the funeral, that message remained with me. Robert's voice echoed in my ear. I remembered our last conversation. It was as if he were trying to tell me something, but he did it with masterful stealth. After the ceremony, everyone gathered at our house. Neighbors, old friends, Robert's colleagues, but I wasn't actually there. My mind was on that message. Who had sent it? Was it really Robert? Or was someone playing a game with me? Standing alone in the kitchen, I heard Daniel's voice. He was talking to Lucas in the living room. They were trying to keep their voices down, but I could hear them. Everything went according to plan, Daniel was saying. "We'll be fine." "What will happen to Mom?" Lucas asked. "What if she suspects?" "She won't. She's old and fragile. She'll believe what she believes." My heart started pounding wildly. What plan were they talking about? I continued to listen, my hands gripping the counter. "The deed to the mansion?" Lucas asked. "At the notary. We'll have it signed tomorrow. When he signs, everything will be ours. The land outside the city, the bank accounts too." "And your father? Well, you know what? Don't worry. He doesn't remember a thing. The treatment is working just as we expected." My legs could barely hold me up. I sank into the chair, gasping for breath. Robert was alive. He really was. And my sons, they had done something to him. My heart felt like it was about to burst from my chest. Everything around me had become a hum. The sounds of the world muffled in my ears. The idea of Robert being alive filled me with both hope and an indescribable dread, because it meant my sons had betrayed not only me, but also their own father. As a mother, the thought of my children being capable of evil was the most painful thought in the world. I remembered Daniel's grip on my hand as a child, and the wildflowers Lucas had brought me. In the place of those sweet children, there were now 2 desperate men. They had imprisoned their father for money. At that moment, my mind pulled me back to the past. A memory flashed. Daniel was 10 years old, had gotten into a fight at school. He came home with his face covered in scratches. Robert was furious, shouting, "Don't ever do that again." Daniel, in tears, cried, "But Dad, that kid called me poor." Robert calmed him down that day. But clearly that word, poor, had left a deep wound in Daniel's soul. Lucas was different. He had always been in Daniel's shadow. He was a boy trying to prove himself alongside his older brother. However gentle he was, as he grew older, he became lost in Daniel's dark ambitions. I had seen these signs, but I hadn't wanted to. A mother's heart chooses to cover flaws with love. Now that veil had been completely torn, revealing the ugly truth beneath. That night, I wandered through the house. Every room held memories. I looked at the old photographs on the walls. Daniel smiling at his elementary school graduation. Lucas's photo from his high school prom. Robert's handmade wooden toys. Everything seemed so distant, so foreign now. Suddenly, I heard the ticking of the clock in the kitchen, and my skin crawled. I couldn't help but ask myself, are my sons thinking of harming me too? Was it possible? If they could do this to Robert, it was only a matter of time before they could do it to me. Later that night, I looked out the window. I saw a silhouette at the edge of the garden. My heart stopped for a moment. The figure stood there for a few seconds, then slowly moved away. That's when I realized my house was being watched. I couldn't sleep. I turned off the living room light and sat on the couch, phone in hand, my eyes constantly on the door. I was determined not to be part of what my sons called the plan. But how could I fight alone? The next morning, I went to the town market. I felt people's eyes on me. Everyone offered their condolences, saying, "What a loss." But I couldn't tell any of them the truth. Who would believe me? If I said my husband is alive, they would probably think I'd lost my mind and believe my sons. I caught the eye of Mrs. Harper, the town's elderly pharmacist. She approached me and took my hand. "Eleanor, you have to be strong," she said. "Robert was a good man. Trust your sons. They'll look after you." I wanted to scream, "No! My sons won't look after me." They even locked their father in a dark facility. But I remained silent. Silence was my only weapon. When I returned home, I went into Robert's study. On the dusty shelves were old notebooks, letters, and invoices. As I searched through them, I found a notebook Daniel had written in his youth. On the cover, written in black ink, was "I will succeed, no matter what it takes." I turned the pages. Even as a child, he had dreamed big, but between the lines, there was always anger. No one will ever crush me. I will have money. I will be strong. No one will ever call me poor. At that moment, I realized that Daniel's greed had eaten away at his soul years ago. I also found a box that belonged to Lucas. Inside was his old guitar, a few poetry notebooks, and a small wooden bird Robert had made for him. Lucas's heart was truly filled with art, but he too had followed Daniel's lead and extinguished his own light. I thought for hours, if Robert was truly alive, I had to find him. But I couldn't do it alone. I couldn't trust the police. I couldn't trust anyone in town. My children's shadows were everywhere. At one point, I went out into the garden and breathed in the air. Dark clouds hung in the sky. The storm inside me was the same. I opened Robert's message to me again, looking through the lines. "They're watching me. Don't trust our children." The sentence was etched into my mind. Robert was trying to guide me. That afternoon, there was a knock on my door. Daniel and Lucas were back. They held flowers and wine, and they appeared to be grieving sons, but I saw something else in their eyes. Control. "Mom, we don't want you to be alone," Daniel said. "Stay with us tonight." "No," I said, my voice steady. "I'll stay here." Lucas looked at me. A faint smile hung on the corners of his lips. "Whatever you say, Mom." After they left, the house was silent for a long time. But that silence didn't bring me peace. It gave me even greater fear, because I knew they would never give up. I woke up in the middle of the night to a noise. Something had fallen in the kitchen. My heart leaped into my throat. I grabbed Robert's old walking stick and quietly walked into the kitchen. There was no one there, but the window was open. Cold air had flowed in. I found a piece of paper on the windowsill. A hastily written note. "Don't run. We know everything." My hands trembled. My children were threatening me. Now, not only Robert's life was in danger, but mine as well. At that moment, a decision dawned within me. I couldn't escape by remaining silent. I had nowhere to run. I had only one way: fight. If Robert was alive, I had to find him. Finding him meant saving my own soul. Because if I surrendered to their plan, I would live the rest of my life as their prisoner. That night, until morning, I tried to formulate a plan. I had to tread carefully. First, I had to find someone I could trust. Maybe Margaret? Yes. Margaret was still alive. I hadn't seen her in years, but I trusted her honesty. Daniel and Lucas wouldn't recognize her. As my eyes slowly closed, I had only one thought. I must save Robert. Despite everything, I couldn't sleep that night. I kept sniffing Robert's pillow, searching for his scent. Our 44 years of marriage flashed before my eyes. I'd met Robert. When I was 24, we lived in the small town of Riverside at the time. I worked at the local library, and he managed his father's small furniture workshop. The first time he saw me was while I was lost in the books. "Madam, it's closing time," he said softly. When I looked up, I saw a man with hazel eyes, balding hair, but a warm smile. There was a conversation that day, coffee the next week, dinner a month later, and a modest wedding in the small church in town 6 months later. Our early years were difficult. The workshop's income was irregular, and I earned very little from the library. We lived in a small 2-room house on the edge of Riverside. We couldn't turn off the stove in the winter because we couldn't heat the house. It was the only way, but we were happy. In the evenings, Robert would hold my hands and say, "Eleanor, with you by my side, I'm as rich as a king." When Daniel was born, everything changed. That baby was my world. His dark brown eyes, his tiny fingers, the sweet sounds he made in his sleep. When I looked at him, I felt like I'd found the meaning of life. 2 years later, Lucas arrived. He was a gift too. They were both so different. Daniel was ambitious and determined. Lucas was softer, more sensitive. Robert was a wonderful father. He taught his sons woodworking, went fishing with them, taught them honesty and hard work. I gave them love, boundless love. I gave up everything for our children, my own dreams, my hobbies, my friends. I lived for them. But as he grew up, something changed. When Daniel was 16, he disrespected his father for the first time. "Dad, I'm not going to do your job," he said coldly. "I'm not going to be a furniture maker. I'm going to do bigger things." Robert was silent that day, but I saw the pain in his eyes. His son hadn't just rejected his job. He had rejected all of his values. Lucas always followed his brother. He did what Daniel said. They studied business administration at university and got jobs at large companies. Over the years, they both became rich, very rich. They were always the ones who worked hard. Perhaps they finally succeeded, but they lost their humanity. Their success brought us joy, but their growing distance from us deeply wore us down. Money was fleeting. Family ties were lasting, but with the wealth, they lost us. Visits became fewer. Phone calls became fewer. Sometimes they wouldn't come even on holidays. When they did, they treated us like strangers. Their gazes at our home were filled with disgust. Our clothes embarrassed them. One time, Daniel had said, "Mom, you're old. Move to the city with us. Sell this house and get into a good nursing home." A nursing home. He wanted to put me in a nursing home. Robert was furious that day. "I'm happy at home with my wife. I'm old enough to understand that your money won't make us happy, son." Daniel just shrugged. From that day on, Robert changed. He became more withdrawn, quieter. Sometimes I'd find him sitting in the garden, his gaze distant, thoughtful. "Is something wrong?" I'd ask. "No, honey," he'd say. "I'm just tired." But I knew he'd lost his sons, and it was killing him. 6 months ago, things got worse. Daniel and Lucas suddenly started coming a lot. At first, I was happy. Maybe I'd finally gotten my children back. But then I realized they were only coming to Robert. They didn't talk to me much. "Dad, how are you?" Daniel would ask at every visit. "Good, son, I'm fine," Robert would say. "Do you see the doctor regularly?" "Yes, I go for a monthly checkup." "Are you taking your medication?" "Eleanor gives it to me, don't worry." Then Lucas would interject. "Dad, have you updated your will?" "We've found a consultant at the notary." Robert would always get irritated. "Why are you talking about a will?" "I'm not dead yet." "Dad, we need to be prepared," Daniel would say. "You're getting older. Mom's getting older too. We want the best for you." Did they really want the best? There was something strange about the children at the time. They were constantly moving around the house, always looking for something. Then came that terrible day. I found Robert on the ground in the garden. His eyes were open, but he wasn't looking at me. He was motionless, not breathing. I screamed and called the ambulance, but it was too late. Or so they told me. Heart attack, the doctor said. It was sudden. He didn't suffer. Daniel and Lucas arrived immediately. They were both very disappointed. They took care of the funeral arrangements, chose the coffin, arranged the ceremony. They did everything. They were very helpful, and now with that message, everything became clear. Robert hadn't been murdered. He hadn't even died. He was being held somewhere, hidden, and my sons had done this. But why? I knew the answer. Actually, money, inheritance. Robert's mansion was valuable. So was his country estate. Years of hard work had accumulated in their bank accounts. Daniel and Lucas had borrowed heavily while building their empire. They were on the verge of bankruptcy, and instead of saving their family, they had chosen to kill their father. Or so they thought. The next morning, Daniel and Lucas knocked on my door. They had papers in hand. "Mom, we need to talk about boring things," Daniel said with a fake smile. "Your father's will, the estate, the accounts. There are some papers you need to sign," Lucas said. "Just a formality. For your protection." I looked at the papers. They were filled with lawyer jargon, terms I didn't understand. But I did understand one thing. If I signed them, I would lose everything. The house, the land, the accounts, everything would be theirs. "I need to think," I said quietly. Daniel's face went white. Lucas stepped back. "FBI?" Daniel repeated. "What? What did you say?" "Them?" "Everything," Margaret said calmly. "Documents, bank records, everything about this facility. And, the FBI is very meticulous. The cops coming here now aren't going to be your golf buddies." Just then, sirens rang out in the distance. They were getting closer. Daniel panicked. He looked at Lucas. "What are we going to do?" Lucas whispered. "Shut up," Daniel growled. "Let me think." But there was no time to think. The sirens stopped in front of the building. Doors slammed. Voices rang out. "Federal agents." "Hands up." Daniel and Lucas froze. FBI agents poured in through the door, followed by state troopers. The whole place was illuminated with blue and red lights. The lead agent was a determined-looking woman in her 30s. "Daniel Wright and Lucas Wright, you're under arrest for attempted murder, smuggling, human trafficking, and fraud." "This is a misunderstanding," Daniel shouted. "I'm a well-known businessman. I want my lawyer." "You'll call your lawyer," the agent said coldly. He placed the handcuffs on him. Lucas didn't even try to resist. He just collapsed to the floor and began to cry. Everywhere I looked, there were agents. They were scouring the building, taking photos, gathering evidence. They were checking on the patients in other rooms. I could only look at Robert. He was lying in bed, weak and exhausted, but alive. I held his hand, caressing his fingers. "Eleanor," he whispered. "Is this real?" "Yes, honey," I said through tears. "It's real. You're safe." It's over. The ambulance arrived. The paramedics placed Robert on the stretcher. They let me stand by him. Inside the ambulance, I held his hand. "Where were you?" I asked. "What did they do to you?" "The drugs," he said, struggling to speak. "They kept giving me drugs. They wiped my memory. For a while, I even forgot who I was. But then I saw your face in my dreams, and I began to remember my name, my life, you. I dreamed of you every night, Eleanor. You saved me." When we arrived at the hospital, the doctors intervened immediately. They ran blood tests and scans. She had a high dose of sedatives in her system, and she was showing signs of malnutrition. She was systematically medicated for 4 months, the doctor told me. But she's lucky. No permanent damage. He'll heal completely in time. Time. How much time did we have left? We were both old, but at least we were together. We were still together. The following days were chaotic. The FBI shut down the facility. They found 12 more people inside, all of them poor souls, abducted from their families and unable to remember their identities. Some had no family at all. Some had been missing for years. The owner of the company that ran the facility was also arrested. A man named Dr. Morrison. He was known for exterminating undesirable people for a hefty fee. He erased their memories, leaving them without identities or pasts. Daniel and Lucas had paid him $50,000. The court dates were terrifying. I sat in the courtroom watching my sons being tried. We were still their parents, but I no longer knew them. Daniel showed no remorse. He placed the blame entirely on Morrison, saying he was just doing business. Lucas was more fragile, crying constantly, but it wasn't a sign of conscience. It was the grief of being caught. The prosecutor said, "Mr. Wright, you attempted to kill your father." "Why?" he asked Daniel. "I didn't," Daniel said coldly. "He was old and couldn't take care of himself anymore. I helped him by erasing his memory, by stealing his identity, by locking him in a cage. He was like a patient. He was getting treatment. Are you a doctor, Mr. Wright?" He remained silent. The jury reached its verdict in 2 hours. Both were found guilty. Daniel received 25 years in prison. Lucas, 20. Both appealed, but they were dismissed. Out in court, I looked into his eyes one last time. Daniel was still angry, still blaming me. But Lucas, I saw something in Lucas's eyes. Maybe regret, maybe just fear. I don't know. "Mom," Lucas said, his hands cuffed. I'm sorry. But what was he sorry for? For what he'd done or for being caught? I didn't answer. I turned and left. Robert was waiting in the car. He took my hand. "Is it over?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "It's over." When we got back to our house, everything looked the same, yet different. The walls were the same, the furniture the same, but this house was no longer our refuge. It was the place our children had betrayed. "Let's move," I said. "One night," Robert said, "somewhere else. Maybe the beach?" "Didn't I always say you wanted to live by the sea?" He smiled. "I always wanted to go to the sea together. But now I just want to be with you, Eleanor. It doesn't matter where we are. We sold the house. On moving day, I wandered through the rooms one last time. Daniel's room, Lucas's. Old photos still hung on the walls. Little children, smiling, innocent. When did we lose them? When did those loving children become heartless monsters? Perhaps we never. They weren't. Maybe we'd raised them that way. Had we spoiled them too much? Had we loved too little? Or had we not loved at all? No, we had loved. We had loved a lot, but love isn't always enough. Sometimes people choose themselves. They choose the darkness. We moved to a coastal town. We bought a small house, modest but warm. Every morning, Robert and I walk on the beach. We watch the sea. We listen to the waves. Sometimes people look at us. They see an old couple, 2 old men holding hands, walking silently. But they don't know our story. They don't know that we've come back from the dead, betrayed by our children, yet still standing. Robert's memory has returned. Slowly, but completely. Sometimes he wakes up at night and has nightmares. He remembers that facility, the dark room, the drugs, the fear. "They stayed with me," he says. "My sons locked me in that room." Daniel looked me in the eye and said, "I'm sorry, Dad." Then he closed the door. That's when I realized he wasn't my son anymore. My heart breaks when I think about those moments, but I also feel something else. Freedom. I'm no longer worried about them, waiting for them, hoping for a call from them. Our relationship is over. Dead, just like that fake funeral. A year passed, then 2. Robert grew stronger, and so did I. We made new friends in the seaside town. Our neighbors love us, and we love them. Margaret visits often. "You two have seen miracles," she says. "You've come back from hell." She's right. But we left something behind when we came back. Our innocence, our trust, our sense of family. Daniel and Lucas are still in prison. None of them wrote, none of them called. And neither did I. What could I say? Thank you for trying to kill me? Sometimes I think about them. How are they in prison? Do they regret it? Or do they still hate us? Do they think they're right? I don't know. And maybe I don't want to know. Eleanor was so confused she couldn't silence the internal conflicts. The evil voices within her. She was so sad she couldn't understand how her own children could have done this, how they could have become this person. This morning, as I was sitting by the sea, a letter arrived. From prison, from Lucas. I felt uneasy. I didn't want to open it, but Robert said, "Read it. Maybe there's something in it. Maybe it's changed." I opened the letter. It was written in childish handwriting. "Mun, I've been trying to write this letter for 2 years. I tore it up every time. What can I say? Am I sorry? Words are not enough. We tried to kill you. We kidnapped my father, tortured him. We did it for money. Every night I can't sleep. I see your face when we lock your father in that room. I remember our last conversation with you, our cold treatment, our selfishness. Daniel doesn't regret it. He still thinks we were right. But I'm lost, Mom. I don't know what I did right or wrong anymore. I don't want forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know I loved you. I still love you. But my love was weaker than my greed, my arrogance. And now I've lost everything. Don't write me back, please. I just wanted you to know. Lucas." Tears dripped onto the paper as I read the letter. Robert held my hand. "What are you saying?" he asked. "I don't know," I said. "He's still my son. But he's also the one who did this to me. How do I reconcile the two?" "Maybe you can't reconcile it," Robert said. "Maybe you can just accept it. He's your son, but he's no longer your responsibility. He's responsible for his own actions. He was right. Lucas was a grown man. He'd made his choices. And now he was living with the consequences." I didn't answer the letter, but I didn't throw it away either. I put it in the bottom of a drawer. Maybe someday, years from now, I'd read it again. Maybe then I'd feel something. But now I'm just tired. Today I'm 70, Robert's 72. We've both grown older. Our hair has turned gray. Our faces have wrinkles, but we're still together. We still walk hand in hand on the beach. Sometimes we see young couples, families, playing with their children. When I look at them, my heart aches. We were like that once too. Happy, hopeful, believing in the future. But life has stolen something from us. Our children, our trust, our innocence. But it couldn't steal one thing, each other. I look at Robert. He's old, frail, but he still has that light in his eyes. When he looks at me, he sees Eleanor, 24. When I look at him, I see that young bicycle repairman. "Do you regret it?" I asked him one day. "Choosing this life? Marrying me? Maybe you would have been better off with someone else." He smiled. "Eleanor, I've been through hell with you, but I would still choose you. Every time I would choose you. This is it. This is true love. Our children have abandoned us, tried to kill us, but we're still here. We still love. We still live. And maybe in the end, that's enough. The sun is setting. The sea is golden." I hold Robert's hand. We walk home, slow but steady. Our past behind us. We have a future ahead of us. I don't know how long it will take. Maybe a year, maybe 10. But no matter how long it takes, we will spend it together. Because I finally learned that family isn't built by blood, but by love. And true love is choosing to survive despite everything. Daniel and Lucas were my sons, but they're not anymore. Robert is my family. My only family. And that's enough for me. Epilogue. 3 years later. 3 years have passed since those terrible days. 3 years. Sometimes it feels like a lifetime. Sometimes it feels like yesterday. I woke up early this morning. Robert was still sleeping, breathing calmly. His hair had turned completely white. His face more wrinkled, but his expression was peaceful. He wasn't having nightmares anymore. The treatment had worked. I went to the kitchen and made coffee. I stood in front of the large window, gazing out at the sea. Seagulls were screaming, waves were crashing onto the shore, leaving foam. It was the same view every morning, but I never got bored. The doorbell rang. Who could be here at this hour? It was only 7:30. When I opened the door, I saw a young woman. She was between 25 and 30, dark hair and green eyes. She was holding a baby, no more than 6 months old. "Are you Eleanor, right?" she asked hesitantly. "Yes, it's me." "Who are you?" Tears welled up in her eyes. I'm Sophia. I'm Lucas's wife." My world fell apart. Lucas's wife? I didn't even know Lucas was married. The words caught in my throat. "Come in, please." We went into the living room. Sophia sat on the couch, rocking the baby in her arms. He was asleep, like an angel. "I know," Sophia said. "Lucas didn't tell you. He didn't tell me much about you either. I learned everything from the court. When Lucas was arrested, I was pregnant. I didn't even know his name, Daniel. Isabella was born 9 months ago." I looked at the baby. Lucas's daughter. My granddaughter. It was something I never imagined. "Why did you come?" I asked quietly. "Because Lucas died," Sophia said, tears streaming down her cheeks. 2 weeks ago. In prison, heart attack. Her words cut into me like a knife. Lucas died. My son died. What was I supposed to feel? Should I be sad? Should I be relieved? I didn't know. "I'm sorry," I said. "What else could I say?" "In his last days, he talked about you all the time," Sophia said. "He was crazy with regret." "Sophia," he told me, "take Isabella to my mother. At least let her see her granddaughter. Maybe she'll forgive me, but I knew you wouldn't forgive me." "How could you?" I looked at the baby, his tiny hands, his rosy cheeks. Innocent, pure, innocent. This child had nothing to do with what Lucas had done. "Can I hold Isabella?" I asked. Sophia hesitated, but then held the baby out. When I held him in my arms, he was like a tiny, warm bundle. He opened his eyes and looked at me. He had green eyes, just like his mother, but I could see Lucas in his features. "Hello, Isabella," I whispered. "I'm your grandmother." At that moment, something inside me broke. The tears I'd been holding back for 3 years spilled out. I cried for Lucas, for the son I'd lost, the boy I'd once loved. He'd betrayed me, tried to kill me, but he was still my son, and now he was gone. Robert had woken up and was coming down the stairs. He froze at the sight. "Eleanor?" "Robert," I said through my tears. "This is Isabella, Lucas's daughter, our granddaughter." A whole range of emotions crossed Robert's face: shock, sadness, confusion. Then he slowly approached us and looked at the baby. "He's beautiful," he said softly. "He was just like you, Eleanor, when he was young." Sophia told us about Lucas's last days. He had changed so much in prison. She had drifted away from Daniel. They no longer spoke. She started reading books, went to the bishop, and searched for her soul. In her last letter to Sophia, she wrote, "The biggest mistake of my life was my greed. I loved money more than my family, and now I have nothing, only regret." "Would you like to come to his funeral?" Sophia asked. "Tomorrow. It'll be a small ceremony. Daniel isn't coming, of course. He's still in prison. But your presence would mean a lot to Lucas." I looked at Robert. He looked back at me. We were both thinking the same thing. Lucas betrayed us, but he finally regretted it, and now he was gone. Going to his funeral wouldn't do him any good, but maybe it would give us peace of mind. "We will," I said. The funeral was small and simple. Just us, Sophia, a few old friends, and a priest. Lucas's coffin was simple, unadorned. His grave wasn't next to his father's fake grave. It was in a different cemetery in the poorer part of town. The priest delivered his speech. Lucas Wright made mistakes in his life. Big mistakes. But in his final days, he turned to God and repented. We all make mistakes. The important thing is to be sorry. Does repentance redeem everything? I don't know. But Lucas was gone now. The time to judge him was over. As I stood at his grave, I spoke to him one last time. Not out loud, but in my head. Lucas, it will take me a long time to forgive you. Maybe I never will. But I'm not angry with you anymore. I'm just sad. For you, for us, for the years we lost. I hope you're at peace now. I hope you're happy now. You found what you were looking for. Robert shook my hand. We walked away from the grave together. Sophia turned to us. Would you like to see Isabella? I mean, sometimes? I know I'm asking a lot of you, but she's your granddaughter. And I'm alone. I have no family, and Lucas has no family. So there are you. Only you. I looked at Robert. I saw the answer in his eyes. Yes, I said. We'd like to see Isabella. Often. Sophia smiled gratefully. Thank you. Thank you so much. I know we don't deserve this, but Isabella does, I said. She's innocent, and every child deserves love. We will not make him pay for his father's mistakes. Now, as I write these lines, Isabella is sleeping next to me. She came to us today with Sophia. We played in the garden. We showed her the sea. She laughed heartily when she saw the waves. Robert is building her a wooden boat. When we grow up, we will go to sea together, he says. Just like I planned to do with my sons. But I never could with them. Maybe life is giving us a second chance. We lost our sons, but we found a grandchild. We were betrayed, but we're learning to forgive. Lucas is dead, but Isabella lives. And with him, maybe we can find that old family warmth again. Daniel is still in prison. He has 18 more years. He never called. He never wrote. Maybe he never will. And I'm not waiting anymore. He's dead to me. But Lucas has repented. He's changed. Even though it's too late, he's back. And now his daughter is with us. Life is strange. It pulls you to the bottom, then brings you back up. It takes everything, then gives you an unexpected gift. It causes pain, but it also gives you hope. Isabella wakes up. She smiles at me. That smile makes you forget all the pain. Maybe this is what true family is in the end. Not a bond of blood, but a bond of love. Isabella is our granddaughter because we love her. Daniel and Lucas are not our sons because they lost love. And Robert is still with me, still holding my hand. We look at Isabella together. Together. We smile. Perhaps all this pain was meant to bring us here, to Isabella, to this second chance, this new beginning. Life goes on, and we with it. Eleanor and Robert learned to transform their pain into love by finding a grandchild, to replace the son they lost. Life gave them a second chance, and they decided to use it to the fullest. What is there to think about, Mom? These are for your protection. Still, I have to think. They both looked at me, their eyes threatening. But they said nothing. They left. That night, the phone rang. An unknown number. Eleanor. I recognized your voice. It was Robert, my husband's voice. Robert? My God, is that you, Robert? Yes, honey, it's me, but I can't say much. Listen to me. Eleanor, I don't have much time. I'm not myself, said Robert. Eleanor was so excited that she continued to listen, breathless. Chapter 2. The Truth. Robert's voice was trembling but firm. I could feel the terror in every word. Eleanor, listen to me. We don't have much time. I don't know exactly where they are, but I think I'm in an old facility outside the city. They're drugging me, keeping me asleep. My memories are blurry, muddled, but I remember you. I always remember you. Tears streamed down my cheeks. Robert, the police. I have to call the police. No, he shouted. No, Eleanor, don't go to the police. Daniel has connections in the police. He's dealing with high-ranking officials in the city. If you go to the police, they'll kill me. They really will this time. Then what are we going to do? How can I? Listen to me. There's a secret compartment in our house, in our bedroom, behind the wardrobe. Do you remember? I made it for you years ago. There's a box inside. Find that box. Its contents will explain everything. And Eleanor? Yes? Don't trust them. Daniel and Lucas. They're not our sons anymore. They tried to kill me for our money. They could do the same to you? Be careful." The line went dead. I looked at my phone. The number had disappeared. Robert was gone, but his words echoed in my heart. I ran straight to the bedroom. I reached behind the wardrobe and felt the wooden panels. Then I found it. A small button, almost invisible. I pressed it and the panels slid open. Inside was an old metal box. With trembling hands, I opened it. There were documents inside, bank statements, lawyer letters, private investigator reports. As I read through them all, the truth was revealed. My hands began to tremble as I leafed through the documents. Robert was always known for his meticulousness, but this time the files were arranged differently, as if he had strung together clues to uncover a hidden truth. The bank statements contained strange transfers. Large sums of money had been constantly disappearing from our son's company accounts. Some payments were made to unknown accounts in the Caribbean, others to unpronounceable banks in Eastern Europe. The numbers and zeros danced before my eyes. I was struck by a chill. Then I read the detective reports. Robert had hired a detective, Andrew Keller, a former police officer. The reports documented suspicious meetings and secret meetings between Daniel and Lucas. One report read, September 3rd, Daniel. Wright met with two men in an abandoned warehouse outside the city. The meeting lasted about 45 minutes. I couldn't hear their conversation clearly, but it appeared the package contained a thick folder. As I was leaving, one of the men said the delivery will be this week. Another report stated that Lucas frequently entered the doors of a clinic at night. This must have been Robert's location, the Restoration Center. The reports described strange people emerging from that building. Some walked with blank stares, others with marks on their arms. My breath shortened as I turned the pages. Every word made my children's betrayal of me clearer. They were no longer my sons. They were strangers, dangerous men. Inside an envelope were notes written in Robert's own handwriting. Between the lines was a mixture of determination and fear. If Eleanor finds these lines, things are worse than I thought. Daniel and Lucas are no longer my sons. They sold their souls for money. They have business partners, politicians, police officers, doctors. This network is vast. So, Eleanor, be careful. These documents could make you a target too, but don't give up. Because if the truth doesn't come out, not only will we be destroyed, but other families will be destroyed as well. As I read, both anger and fear grew inside me. My sons, not content with their own greed, had gone so far as to ruin the lives of others. Then I came across a mysterious file. It contained scientific terms, experimental reports, and lists of medications. From what I could tell, at this center, people were given memory-erasing drugs. Their identities completely erased. Some reports read successful subject, while others redisappeared. It wasn't hard to guess what disappeared. Men. A lump formed in my throat at that moment. This wasn't just Robert's problem. There is a much bigger, much darker game at play here. I found a photo hidden under the documents. I couldn't believe my eyes. Daniel, Lucas, and three men I didn't recognize. Black suits, a dark background. The date on the back of the photo, July 12th. Written in pencil beneath was the word, agreement. Who had they agreed to? And what? My mind was racing as I read more. One of Robert's notes read, Eleanor, if you ever want to find me, remember Pine Hills Road? There's a new building next to the factory. I'm being held there. But don't go alone. Go with someone you trust. Because they're watching. Tears flowed as I read these lines. Robert had given me away. He knew I wouldn't give up easily. But he was also concerned for my safety. Among the documents were some phone records. I saw Daniel talking to a number repeatedly. Dr. M was written next to it. It was probably Morrison, the person in charge of the clinic. Robert's suspicions were evident in the notes. Isn't just a doctor. He's a front. He has a massive network behind him. Daniel paid him $50,000. Why? Because eliminating their father isn't enough. They want to erase his memories too. That way, there won't be any trace left. At that moment, a spark ignited inside me. I now had proof. These documents weren't just evidence of a family conflict. They were proof of a vast criminal network. But who could I trust? I couldn't go to the police because my sons had connections there too, and the townspeople were either cowards or self-serving. I pulled up a chair and sat at the table, spreading all the documents before me. Pages piled up, photographs, invoices, signatures. A voice inside me kept repeating, "Eleanor, these documents could kill you too." But I had no other choice. I had to find Roberts, and to do that, I had to follow these clues he'd left. Just then, I heard the sound of a car outside. I looked through the curtain. Lucas's car was parked outside the door. Panicked, I quickly put the documents back in the box and put them away in the secret compartment. I had just closed the door when the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, Lucas was smiling. "Mom, how are you? We don't want you to be alone. My brother can be a little strict, but we only care about your well-being." I looked into his eyes. Those eyes had once held innocence. Now they were shrouded in darkness. "I'm fine," I said shortly. Lucas came in and looked around. "Are you going through Dad's paperwork?" he asked nonchalantly. My heart almost leaped, but I didn't show it on my face. "No, I was just cleaning." That's when I realized they knew the documents existed. They might have known that the box was there too. If I made the wrong move, both Robert and I could have been destroyed. Lucas left after chatting for a bit, but I knew he was just checking in. The moment I closed the door, I made a decision. Keep these documents safe. I had to give it to someone. It could have been Margaret. I trusted her intelligence and loyalty. I set out early the next morning. Margaret lived in a small townhouse. When she opened the door, she was surprised to see me. We hadn't seen each other in years, but her eyes softened immediately. "Eleanor, what happened to you? You look so tired." I went in and took out the documents. I told her everything. The message, my son's conversations, Robert's disappearance, the horrific details in the documents. Margaret listened, nodding. Her face grew paler. "My God, Eleanor," she said finally, "this isn't just a family matter. This is a national crime. These documents will open the door to a huge scandal." "Yes," I said, "but I just want Robert. To find him, to get him back. I don't know what we'll do with the rest." Margaret studied the documents for a long time. "You have to keep this evidence, but we can't handle it alone. Maybe the media? Maybe the FBI?" The idea frightened me, but it also gave me hope. Because my son's connections were strong in town, but perhaps less so in the larger courts. That evening, Margaret and I sat down and started making a plan. We discussed how we could get to the facility on Pine Hills Road, how we could sneak in. Margaret pulled out an old map. "Look," she said, "there's a service road behind this factory. We can approach from there. The cameras are probably watching the front." We discussed every detail. Perhaps this was madness for a woman my age, but love drives people to madness. I couldn't breathe without Robert. At the end of the night, I put the documents back in the box. Margaret looked me in the eye. "Eleanor, you still have time. You can back out. It's dangerous." "No," I said firmly. "I won't leave Robert. He's my life." Robert was suspicious. Months earlier, he'd learned that Daniel and Lucas's company had gone bankrupt. They were hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. The court judgments, the foreclosure files, everything was there. And then there were the life insurance policies. They were supposed to receive $500,000 in the event of Robert's death. They were also supposed to receive the property. But the worst was another document, a bill from a private clinic. Name, Restoration Center. Description, amnesia treatment, chemical induction, long-term care. Date, 4 months ago. 4 months ago, Daniel and Lucas had kidnapped their father and imprisoned him in a clinic. They had erased his memory with drugs, given him a new identity, perhaps even a different name. And then they had staged a fake funeral. But something had gone wrong. Robert had begun to remember. He had managed to reach me. Among the documents was an address, Restoration Center. Eleanor had to think very carefully from now on, make very good decisions. Robert's life was in danger. Everything she did from now on had to be very logical. She had to save Robert. I had to make a plan. And who could I trust? Neighbors? No, Daniel had talked to them too, telling them all that my mother was going through a hard time. Friends? Friends my age were either too far away or too old. Then I remembered Margaret, my old colleague at the library. She had retired, but she was still sharp. And most importantly, Daniel and Lucas didn't know her. I called Margaret. When she heard my voice, she knew immediately that something was wrong. Eleanor? Your voice is so tense. What happened? Margaret, I have something incredible to tell you. But I need you to believe me. I told her everything. The message, the conversation I overheard, the box, the documents, Robert's phone. Margaret listened silently. When I finished, there was a long silence. Eleanor, he said finally, if what you're saying is true, this is attempted murder. Or worse. But we need evidence. Hard evidence. Robert's there, Margaret. He's at the facility. I have to go and save him. You can't go alone. It'll be dangerous. Come with me. We'll go tomorrow night. But we have to be prepared. The next day, Daniel came again. This time, Lucas wasn't there. He was more aggressive, more impatient. Mom, you have to sign these papers. The lawyers are waiting. The court date is approaching. What court, Daniel? It's for your father's will. That's the procedure. You have to sign it. What if I don't sign it? His face tightened. Then things will get difficult. For you and for everyone. Are you threatening me? No, Mom, I'm just telling the truth. Dad's dead. We have to move forward. You're old too. You can't deal with this. Sign and we'll figure it all out. No. The moment the words left my lips, the atmosphere in the room changed. Daniel looked at me and I knew in that moment. He felt nothing for me. I wasn't his mother, just an obstacle. Okay, he said coldly. So be it. He left, but I knew he'd come back. And next time, he wouldn't just talk. That night, we met up with Margaret. She arrived in her old Honda. I got in, my knees shaking. Are you ready? She asked. I don't know, I said honestly. But I have to. Pine Hills Road was dark and deserted. There was nothing for miles, just trees and darkness. Finally, I reached we saw a factory building. Next to it was a small but modern-looking building. Outside, security cameras and an electric fence. This is it, I said. Restoration Center. Margaret parked the car farther away. We have to sneak up. There are cameras. We were two old women, but adrenaline had us feeling young. We drove through the darkness, past the fence. There was a back door, half open. We slipped inside. The corridor was cold and sterile. It smelled like a hospital, but there was something different in the air. Chemicals, drugs, and something else. Fear. We walked along the corridor. There were rooms, each with a patient. But these weren't ordinary patients. They were all motionless, their eyes open but empty as if they had no soul. My God, Margaret whispered. What is this place? Hell, I said. Then I saw him. In the very end, my Robert, he was lying in bed, his arm pumping with intravenous fluids. His face was pale, emaciated, but it was him, my husband, my love. Robert, I whispered, running to him. He opened his eyes. He looked at me. For a moment, he didn't recognize me. Then a light flashed in his eyes. Eleanor? Yes, honey, it's me. I've come to take you away. The sparkle in Robert's eyes, the loving look he gave his wife, summed it all up. As I tried to remove the tube, I heard a voice behind us. Mom. It was Daniel. He was standing in the doorway. Lucas was beside him. Both of them were glaring at me with anger. What are you doing here? Daniel asked coldly. I'm taking my husband back, I said firmly. And you're both going to prison. Lucas laughed. It was a cold, bitter laugh. Mom, you're not going anywhere. And neither is Dad. He's not your dad anymore, Daniel said. He's just a problem. and we'll solve problems. How? I asked. Are you going to kill me too? They both fell silent, and in that silence I found the answer. Yes. Yes, they would. Both me and Robert. Daniel Lucas, I said in a trembling voice, I am your mother. I gave birth to you, I raised you, I gave you everything. How? How? Daniel shouted. Are you asking how? I've lived in poverty all my life, Mom. They made fun of me at school because I wore pants sewn with patches. I lost the girl I loved because I couldn't buy her a decent gift. You and Dad condemned us to this life. Because we weren't rich? I asked in disbelief. Is that why you did this? Yes, he shouted. Yes, for money. Because money is everything. Money is power. Money is freedom. Money is respect. And we deserve it. By killing your dad? Dad was already old, Lucas said quietly. He could have lived a few more years, that's all. We ended it without him suffering. We actually did him a favor. I was stunned by the madness, the remorselessness in his eyes. Were these really my sons? Did I raise these monsters? Margaret stepped forward. I called the police, she said. He's coming here. I reported everything. Panic flashed across Daniel's face for a moment, but then he recovered. The police? What police? Sheriff Mitchell? He's my golf buddy. Or Detective Barnes? He bought him a new yacht last month. Who's coming, Mom? Who won't believe us? She was right. They had connections in this town everywhere. Who would believe us? But Margaret smiled. I didn't call the town police. I called the state police and the FBI because there's not just a murder attempt here. There's smuggling, human trafficking, illegal medical experiments. This building isn't on record. The patients here are anonymous. And you've done something terrible.